The way we're going to run this session is the first half. I will be in conversation with Sky One's Adam MacDonald. We shall talk strategy, big picture, try and get a sense of direction of travel for Sky One. And then in the second half of the session, we're going to be joined by Phil Edgar Jones, who runs entertainment for Sky, and two producers, Untitled Chapter, and he's getting a whoop down here. I think good for Phil. Untitled Chapter and Matt Steiner, who are prominent indie bosses, will be joining us on stage to talk about two big new entertainment shows that they are delivering for Sky One, which happily for us fits in quite nicely with the strategy piece. So that will be the second half of the session. There's also an app. Frankly, if you don't know about the app by now, I'm slightly stuffed, but there's an opportunity to ask questions via the app. We've already got a few in. We'd love to have some more, so please do take the opportunity. We'll make sure there's some time at the end for you guys to ask your questions. Whew.
Well done.
Thank you.
Now it's me.
Now it's you. Adam, it's been a very eventful year for Sky One, and I think let's start with the big strategic decision that was taken back in February to narrow Sky One's genre focus.
Yep.
Previously, very much a sort of all-genre kind of a channel. The decision was taken to move away from factual and to put greater emphasis on particularly fact and entertainment. Can you talk us through, just remind us about why that decision was taken? Because it's quite a bold move.
Yeah. So it was. It came out of a big piece of work we're all doing on value on our subscribers, kind of engaging with our subscriber base and talking to them about what they want from the programming, what they want from the channels on Sky. And there was a sense that we were probably spread a bit too thin. We were probably trying to do too many things. And in certain genres, we were doing things that actually other channels had a high volume of, and also, a kind of longer legacy of heritage in those genres. And so, what we decided to do was to be more focused in the strategy, be more focused in what we commission, and particularly go after genres that. Twofold, really. Go after genres that our customers are saying they really value and like to talk about. And secondly, going after genres where we think that creatively we could make an impact. So in the pure factual genre, as we all know, there's an awful lot of very good factual around, an awful lot of channels doing it. We did very good factual, but we weren't able to do it in as much of a volume and impact. And so, the great shows we were making, our customers were not recognising them as
not attributing them to Sky One. Do you mean? Right. Okay.
Sky One. And so we decided not to do that. We decided to kind of go after genres where we think we could make an impact. We'd made a huge impact over the last 3 or 4 years in drama, and we wanted to do the same thing in comedy and in entertainment.
Very good. It still strikes me, though, this is a very bold thing to do. I looked at the Sky One website, the sort of consumer-facing website, the other week before I came up, and The Force Northeast was on there, Dog's Amazing Animal Family was on there. Over the years, Ross Kemp's been a big ratings draw for Sky One. You've taken a decision to leave behind some things that have been building blocks of the schedule.
Yeah. And I think, a lot of those, like I say, those were very successful shows, but they were shows that other channels were doing in a higher volume. And so it's a question of value with our audience, an attribution. But a lot of those shows were, Ross Kemp aside, but were kind of lower cost, high volume shows, which is kind of what, it's what, if you're a terrestrial channel, if you're reliant on advertising purely, these shows are very efficient. And they do bulk out the schedule, and they get ratings in. We're not a wholly advertiser revenue-driven channel. We're principally a subscription channel, and so we don't need to do that. We don't need to bulk out the schedule. We don't need to have ballast in the schedule in the way that other channels do. Those shows are fantastic. The Force is really a lovely show, but again, our viewers weren't identifying that show with us and attributing it to Sky One, and therefore associating that value they're getting from the subscription.
Understood. Okay. So does it follow then that Sky One as a channel is now commissioning fewer hours of more expensive originations?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, we are. Overall, we are. I mean, kind of within genres, we're doing more. So we're doing more in entertainment.
Sure.
We're doing bigger and more. You know, I'm much more, you know, everybody talks about fewer, bigger, better. I'm much more kind of more, bigger, better. You know, I like more. But because we're doing less of the high volume, lower cost stuff, actually, if you look at the cost per hour across the channel, yeah, that's right, yeah.
Okay, okay. And that's essentially because of the fact that for some of these shows, we'll talk about entertainment specifically at the end. We're talking about seriously big budgets now for Sky One shows.
Oh, God, yeah.
I've sat in quite a few controller sessions over the course of Edinburgh, and no one's asked about budgets or tariffs thus far, which is slightly surprising. So, Adam, let's talk about budgets and tariffs. Some of this, and I appreciate, look, commercially sensitive information, I completely understand all that. For the big stuff that we come on to talking about in the second half, you must be pushing £1 million an hour for some of these shows?
So I'm not going to talk about budgets and tariffs, but the
Don't say I didn't try. Give us a tell us what can you say?
So our entertainment shows are approaching drama budgets. So yes, you know, we feel we'll come on to talk about entertainment later, so I won't go into that too much now. But you know, the strategy is to make an impact in that genre in the way that we've made an impact in the drama genre. And
the best way to make an impact, frankly, is money on screen.
Well, it's not the best way. It's not the best way, but it does help, and it fits with our strategy. Our strategy for Sky One is just, you know, we're dialing up the scale, we're dialing up the energy. We want to make shows that other channels aren't doing, and so, you know, in certain shows, you need to spend proper chunky money on it. Yeah.
Good. I would suspect that the pruning of genres helps, in theory, give Sky One greater focus and perhaps a more refined identity. Can you articulate for us what you know what the Sky One identity is, and perhaps how it's changed in, from 2 or 3 years ago?
Well, you know, we did that broadcast interview 4 years ago when you were a Callow youth, and as was I, and we're talking then about dialing up the energy on the channel. And so that's continuing. It's a continual evolution. So the channel is being more energetic, a more kind of mischievous attitude, a bit more of a swagger to it, and slightly more grown up. I think that's the interesting, you know, the interesting kind of structural thing within the new Sky One is the injection of money into entertainment and in comedy, which we can talk about. The interesting thing about the evolution of the personality of the channel is that it's getting, on top of having a bit more attitude and a bit more energy and a bit more chutzpah about it, it is slightly more grown up.
Because previously you were going after sort of family viewing, shared viewing, and now I get the sense that over the years, you may well disagree. I haven't necessarily associated Sky One with particularly non-scripted, it's sort of edgier kind of shows. And you are moving towards a more balanced tonal
I mean,
space.
it's kind of, you know, I'd like to think that the shows we were commissioning pre-Watershed had an edge to them. I mean, you know, it's interesting. The word family is something I've kind of chewed on for 4 or 5 years. And whenever I used to speak about family on Sky One, I always used to try and say modern families, you know, kind of just to give the hint that it's like fucking Modern Family, you know. But family,
I can see what you did there.
But the word family is just it's a word you can lose control of, and it's a word that can mean other things to other people. And so even internally, but definitely externally, there was a sense that actually that mischievous personality, that slight naughtiness, the kind of, you know, the kind of grown-up nature of what we're doing pre-Watershed was kind of not being spotted. And so, and also structurally, because of the investment we've made in American acquisitions that are playing pre-Watershed.
Yes.
You know, the superheroes.
8 p.m. superheroes.
Yeah, yeah.
Massively important for you.
Yeah, yeah. So structurally, that was, you know, so you know, you couldn't actually get commissions into those slots because you know they'd be in between all the superhero shows, and so you know that led to the evolution of, you know, kind of taking money from pre-Watershed, spending it post-Watershed. And then kind of, you know, pre-Watershed, you could do edgy shows, but if you're doing edgy shows post-Watershed, they can be edgier.
Yes.
And also I think that, you know, so teenagers watching with their parents will still be a very important aspect of Sky One. And I think teenagers watching comedy at 10 o'clock that's really rude is more exciting than teenagers watching something pre-Watershed that's kind of, you know, plays on two different levels. So I think that when we talk about the channel growing up, in terms of how we sell ourselves, how we position ourselves, how we talk to the audience, it's going to feel a little bit edgier.
We'll jump back to slightly rude comedy when we do a whistle-stop tour of some of the genres in a few moments. Ben Fowle believes that when he's commissioning for Channel 5, his target, his viewer in his mind is a middle-aged woman in Middlesbrough, he said earlier today. You know her?
I know her, yeah.
Yeah, she's nice.
She hates Channel 5.
She's a nice lady. Very good. I mean, I would suspect that you don't necessarily have a prism quite that defined, but do you have is there a Sky One viewer in mind?
So it's so the target we're going for after, the demographic, is 25 to 55. BC1, C2, so ordinary people, and in that age group, both men and women.
Yep.
But less. I hate to say more male skewed, less female skewed than other channels.
Yes.
I've been looking at the demographics of our channel compared to the other channels, and actually, you know, we talk about, you know, we're wanting male skewed shows. You know, what does that mean? I never knew what that meant, kind of, and it certainly doesn't mean loads of men on the channel.
Yeah.
And actually, if you look at the profile of Sky One, it's 50-50 male female,
which is relatively rare.
Well, of course, all the other networks are skewed female. And you know, so I think ITV is 60% female. I think Channel 4 even is 55%.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yep.
So we've got 50-50, and that makes us unusual actually, and that's something that's kind of quite precious to us, and it helps us to kind of make our shows distinctive. And so if you look at our demographic, 50-50, which means actually we're less female skewed than other channels, and actually once you get beyond 55, the viewing drops away quite markedly on Sky One, whereas on the other networks it goes up quite a lot. Indeed,
okay. And neither desperate for the young viewers, like some of the free-to-air guys might be, but also your point there, you're not necessarily catering for the for the real Marigold crowd.
That's right, yeah. So definitely 25 to 55, shows with an attitude, shows with a swagger, shows that...
Bit of mischief, yeah.
And then actually there will be kids and there will be kind of people under 25 coming, you know, at times. So we're not specifically aiming at audiences that are... they're not within our kind of target audience now.
It's always very interesting talking to you about these kind of things. You have a very good way of explaining it. I'm interested in scheduling. You're going to have a raft of new shows. Yeah. We're going to have some new Factual Entertainment shows at some point. We've got a couple of new entertainment things. Where are you going to play these? Particularly, you know, where are you going to play these shows? It's obvious to me if ITV or BBC One or there's a big entertainment show where the budget is getting up towards drama levels, they're going to play that Saturday nights. Saturday night's super competitive. Are you going to be fluid in where you schedule things?
We're going to be fluid. You know, so you know, whenever we approach anything at Sky, we kind of think, okay, it's almost a commercial imperative for us to be different because people pay for us, and so they're getting really good, popular entertainment shows on Saturday and Sunday on the terrestrial. Shows that have been around for a while.
Yes.
And so there's no point us going there. Because it's kind of, you know, it's a very kind of congested one, but also that's what other people do. So we're looking at spending our money and making those shows elsewhere in the schedule. You know, we're interested in post-Watershed versions of those shows. Right. I think that's quite interesting. Right. A lot of these big shows are pre-Watershed. Yeah. Actually, you know, the moment you kind of go, do you know what? If we're going to do a big entertainment show and it's to play at 9 o'clock, what does that feel like? And creatively, that just unlocks a whole different area for programming.
Because I fully appreciate you might not want to go toe-to-toe on Saturday nights. Makes sense.
We might do, but I think it's not definite. Yeah.
Sure,
yeah.
sure. You have got a lot of superhero acquisitions at 8 p.m.
Yeah.
That does mean that the 9 p.m. hour, I would have thought, for Sky One, drama, comedy, potentially some of this entertainment, some of this fact and things as well.
I wouldn't be surprised to see some stuff at 9 o'clock midweek. Yeah.
Very good. Before we jump on, I'm going to do a little bit on comedy, a little bit on drama, a little bit on fact end, and then we'll get the guys up on stage to talk talk entertainment. Group M. You've heard of those guys, I believe.
Yeah, changed their name though.
They have changed their name. I should be calling them the Motion Content Group. So before I get an angry phone call from Richard Foster, Motion Content Group. Some of the projects you're doing are with those guys. Is that because the budgets are so significant that they need to be topped up with a funding partner? No,
not really. I think some of the shows we are doing with Group M, some of the other shows we're not. It's additional money that you can tap into if it works for us, if it works for the indies. We don't compel people to do that.
So it's not inevitable if I bring you an entertainment show that's going to be an expensive show, working with a Motion Content Group or another one of their peers is not an inevitability.
Oh God, no, absolutely not. It's always worth asking that question because again, we have big budgets, but you can stretch those budgets if you want. It's always worth asking that question. It's always worth asking the question about Sky Vision. But it's a question, it's a suggestion, it's no more than that.
Okay, and again, I'm not going to be ease towards Sky Vision for my distribution dealers.
We'll ask the question. It's a business that it's our business. We'll ask that question. But God, if there's a fantastic idea that we're really excited by, and it comes from a production company that have their own distribution, it comes from a production company that don't want to work with Group M, of course we'll do it. Yeah.
Okay, good. Let's do a whiz through of some of the genres. You mentioned comedy. Mm-hmm. I associate, for obvious reasons, I think of Sky One comedy. It's hard not to think of Trolleyed and Mount Pleasant. Long-running series. You can tell me. I'm sure they've got to sort of 6, 7 series.
Yeah. So we've got Trolleyed, Mount Pleasant, and Stella that have all done over 50 episodes.
Yeah.
I think Stella's going up to 60 episodes in the next run, possibly more. So
they have a certain tone. Those shows.
Yeah.
They are a gentler comedy? Fair or not fair?
I'd say kind of Mount Pleasant, Stella, kind of more like that Trolleyed. I think if anybody watches Trolleyed, it's got a naughtiness. I mean, they all have a naughtiness to it, but I think that Stella, Mount Pleasant, at 9 o'clock there is a flavour that's been very, very successful for the channel.
But an opportunity now for a little bit more tonal darkness, a little bit of edginess.
Yeah, and also, so we've got a show this autumn coming up called Living the Dream.
It's a big talk show?
No. So it's a comedy drama from John.
Right.
So it's Philip Glenister.
Right.
And so it's a family made from Big Talk. I think that's right, John, isn't it? And it's a family that upsticks, Northern family, upsticks and go off to America because Philip Glenister, the dad, has bought a RV park.
Right.
And so they go to live the dream, the American dream. And of course, unsurprisingly, things don't go as smoothly as possible, as they could. So that's in many respects kind of taken that world of the Mount Pleasant, of the Stellas, that kind of very accessible, ordinary folk.
Yes. Fish out of water kind of,
but actually doing something a bit more in keeping with the direction of the new channel, a little bit more high concept with that family unit to kind of give them a real adventure to go on. Yeah.
Okay, but you're sticking with the other. You're going to have two. There's 9 p.m. comedy and 10 p.m. comedy. There's slightly gentler comedy and there's slightly edgier comedy as a mix.
So the way we think about it, there's hour-long narrative drama, hour-long narrative scripted at 9 o'clock, and then there's 10 o'clock half-hour comedy.
Right.
And so John commissions into that 9 o'clock with Anne. And John kind of, is kind of looking for that, the world of evolving from Stella and Mount Pleasant to sit alongside all the work that Anne and her team's doing in that more kind of exuberant drama. So we kind of think of those hour-longs as being kind of similar, and then the distinct new thing we're doing on Sky One is putting this kind of darker, edgier, more grown-up, overt comedy at 10 o'clock.
Perfect. Okay, that makes sense. In terms of drama, there's obviously Sky Atlantic exists in the portfolio.
Yeah.
I think people have got a good sense of Sky Atlantic. Sky One is, I mean, it's interesting. You have some pieces that obviously it's not as though everything on Sky Atlantic has huge ambition. Everything on Sky One is less ambitious. Jamestown, for example, is obviously a very ambitious piece. Can you just give us a whistle stop on the sort of the drama strategy and how when a project comes through, you distinguish which channel to play it on and where it fits?
So for us, we'd had huge success with our drama on Sky One over the last 4 or 5 years. Sequentially getting bigger and bigger, stronger and stronger. We now have three kind of returners now: Lucky Man, Jamestown, and Delicious, all coming back with all the new shows. So our shows, they have a they certainly have an ambition. They certainly have a kind of a quality threshold. But they have an attitude, they have an edge, they have a kind of exuberance, and also this word swagger that I rather like to them, and they're very energetic. I think at the heart, there's a bit more obvious, clear emotion at the heart of them. We have heroes, we have good people at the heart of them, we have people on adventures.
Yep.
But we also, our ambition is huge there. And if you kind of look at the latest shows, we've just announced Discovery of Witches, which is coming next year. Kind of a huge high concept piece. Vampires, demons, witches in there. Fantastic franchise. Deborah Harkness, that we're using with Bad Wolf. It's kind of hugely ambitious. It's going to be a massive show. But at its heart, it's a love story. So on Sky One...
These are quite mainstream themes. They're kind of accessible themes.
Yeah. The themes that kind of you can identify with. You don't, you're not massively conflicted or troubled by the kind of narrative arc you're on. You understand that narrative arc, and then you can kind of have fun and along the way. And we can, these shows increasingly, if you watch Lucky Man, it's quite a dark show in actual fact. People think it, because it's a, kind of British superhero, but it's pretty tough. Delicious. Had themes of incest, family incest in there. It had a real kind of spice to it, and a real edge to it. And so all those shows increasingly are going to feel like that. But they do have these kind of characters at the heart that you can fundamentally quickly identify.
Yeah, very good. Can we talk briefly about Factual Entertainment?
Yep.
It's a new genre where you're again putting greater resource. When Broadcast interviewed Zai at the start of the year to talk about this strategy, he name-checked Hunted, the Channel 4 show Hunted, which they brought back, and obviously second series of Hunted was much stronger than the first series of Hunted had been. What can we take from him identifying that show? Give us a sense of the kind of Factual Entertainment stuff that you want to do. So
we're very close to announcing one. We've got a number of other ones in development. We're eager for more ideas in this area. So it will be, it will be Factual Entertainment that all roads lead back to the personality of the channel. So something with energy, something with chutzpah, something with exuberance, something with an adventure to it, something with an adrenaline to it.
Some physicality?
Travel has always been a big theme on Sky One. Taking people out of Britain and on adventures. So that kind of overseas adventure.
Competitive format, some elimination stuff?
So the interesting thing is of all the new entertainment shows we're making at the moment, we don't have a whittle. We don't have a kind of 12, 11, 10, 9, 8. One of the things we're looking at through the research we did with our customers was that we want to get shows that are talked about more. And those shows, it's helpful to have that kind of competitive whittle structure. We don't want to do the same as everybody else, and that's why we kind of it'd be good hearing from Matt and Natalka to kind of see how they responded to our briefs, because our briefs aren't that specific. They're all to do with flavour and attitude and personality and that annoying thing, which is kind of, can they be a bit different from other people, which people love, and then they pitch something that's different. We kind of go, oh, it's a bit different. But we've made great progress in the more overtly entertainment space, which we can talk about. We're still hungry in that space, but we're particularly hungry in the fact-ent space. Yeah,
opportunities there, and some opportunity for some chunky orders, right? We're talking about potentially for 6-8 part series.
Oh yeah.
Okay. And in terms of finally on fact-ent, I mean, is it higher concept stuff? I mean, are you interested in the more traditional subject, you know, property or food or
no.
Okay?
So and we've always been the case, that case. So domesticity we're not interested in. Other channels do that very, very well.
Yep.
So we're not in that domestic space. So we want to get people to kind of, you know, lift their eyes to the horizon and kind of go on an exciting
aspirational
adventure.
Stuff, right?
Well, just an adventure. Adventure's kind of, you know, a good word for it, really.
Okay, very good. Should we have an adventure in the second half of the session?
Yes.
Let's talk about entertainment, and we thought the best way that we could do that is to talk in detail about a couple of shows which Adam and Phil have ordered, and we'll talk about those shows, and we'll try and explore the wider strategy as well around entertainment. So can I ask Phil, Natalka and Matt to come and join me up on stage?
Thanks for the clap. It's not a line you hear.
It's not a line I use every day.
So,
of course, it's been a long couple of days, hasn't it? Jesus Christ.
It's the Russell Brand session.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'm not going to do lengthy introductions because time is tight. We want to hear these guys speak. I'm sure, as you all know, Phil is Sky's entertainment guru, looking after that genre and working very closely with Adam on this new strategy. Matt runs Primal Media, which is a Lionsgate-backed production company specialising in entertainment and sort of factual entertainment, that kind of stuff. And Natalka runs Zanak & Co, which is a sort of transatlantic kind of...
I've got office in LA and London. I've flown in from LA for this. Hangover.
Hangover in the clap.
Yeah.
Very good. And the shows that these guys are responsible...
Sorry.
He's thrown me off my stride there, to be honest. In fact, Matt, in 2 sentences, and then I'll come to you, Natalka. The show that Sky's commissioned. Give us the flavour of that. Give us the.
It's very simple. It's sort of Mad Max meets Wacky Races meets Robot Wars, and the next line down is it is groups of British men and women who are basically taking ordinary cars, ice cream vans, hearses, weaponising them. And then we're shipping them all to South Africa, where they go into the desert, into 3 arenas, which have all sorts of fun and games going on them, and try and destroy each other.
Very good. It's Carmageddon, this show. Is that a working title or is that a final title?
That's a working title, man.
Working title, Carmageddon. I say stick with it. Natalka?
Revolution is what we're doing, which is a big physical game show, which is best described as Rollerball meets the Hunger Games. We're building a massive, massive set in an aircraft hangar in Cardington, and people are going to have to tackle this course.
Very good. We will come back, because it's interesting, obviously, big set that's being built, shooting in Africa.
Big set.
Yeah. So we'll come back and ask you guys about that. But Phil, I'm going to sort of slightly pass over to you now.
Sure.
At what point? So these ideas, were they the kernel of an idea? Were they fully formed when they came to you?
Well, I mean, the reason I want to do this, to contextualise this a little bit, is we sort of thought it might be useful to take us through the anatomy of an idea and how the sort of process works at Sky to some extent. So there's like different journeys that these shows have been in. So with Revolution, so I took over this job in January or something. Revolution had preceded me to some extent, so we sort of had it on the slate. It still spoke to. We developed a new brief for entertainment quite quickly, and we wanted to, as Adam says, get a sense of sort of epic scale. But we sort of basing all our thinking around movie tropes and the idea of sort of taking what happens in films and the sort of different film genres and turning them into TV. So that it sort of had that element to it. But then we had obviously some conversations. But because inevitably when a new person comes in, they have maybe a different viewpoint, and the tone of the channel was changing, so we had to sort of have a conversation with Natalka about that.
What Phil's very, very politely saying is the show was on the slate, and you looked at it and you thought, I quite like this, but I'd also like it to be quite different.
Well, yeah, so from my point of view, obviously we've got a we'd already had quite a bit of development money from Sky. We developed the show fully with Celia and Adam. And you'll see there was a tape, we had location, we were all pretty much locked. And then I get the email from Celia, oh, I'm leaving, but don't worry, everything's going to be fine. Well, we all know that's never true when there's a change of commissioner. And I was like, shit. I literally jumped on a plane. I was like, I'm going to go to London. I'm going to speak to Phil. I'm going to speak to everyone because they don't know this show. And, you know, I've never pitched it. So I flew back. It was just before Christmas. I flew back. I thought, oh, okay, I think we're all right. And then there's the famous phone call. I was on a cruise, filming on a cruise, supposedly filming in the kitchens, but there was an outbreak of novivirus. Everyone was sick. It was raining, and then I got a phone call from Phil, which was...
You can laugh now.
It really, really wasn't funny. I was sat, and he went, yeah, we love it. We just want a few more we just want a few changes, and we're going to give you some more development money. But effectively, it was a repitch, which was a tough phone call to take because we were sort of about to go into production.
People think he's so nice as well, don't
they? He was very pleasant. The phone call was very pleasant. I swore a lot after it.
The phone call out.
Fuck it. You know, it was, you know, and because of this new brief, and it really, it was, can you look at that show through the new lens? And obviously it's very tough when you've got so far and you're in love with one particular version of it. And it was a tough phone call to make to the team who are about to do it, but you just have to get over that and then just get on with it. And the end result is a bigger and better show.
And Phil,
I just wonder if it's worth playing.
Yeah,
we've got two sizzle reels. So there's the initial sizzle that kind of came in that we had, and then there's you sort of re-sizzled it, as it were, didn't you? After the development to sort of speak into this new sense of what Sky One was.
Should we play them back to back then?
I wonder, yeah.
And then once we've played them, Phil, if you could say, you talked a bit about the new prism, just expand on what that new prism was, and then Talkie, you can say how you sort of responded to that challenge. Should we play the two VTs?
Yeah. Yeah.
Adam, you were talking about
just it's interesting that I had a similar kind of process in Natalka because I was all on board with that first one, bought into what Natalka was doing, what Celia was doing, and then Phil came along and said, well, I'm not sure about this. And actually, in terms of a relationship between a channel controller and a new commissioner, I thought that was an interesting kind of moment because it kind of like I liked it, but Phil doesn't, and so how do we work through that? And so it was like, okay,
Yeah, so I did not like it actually. I was just
yeah.
But it was. I'll tell you what it was, and you'll see if we can play the tapes. The original version is probably fair to say it was a kind of pre-Watershed type and sort of entertainment type thing. My slight concern about it was that it operates in that sort of gladiator space maybe, and actually given the new sort of thinking that Adam's talking about being post-Watershed, having a bit more grit in the oyster, I suppose, as it were, being a bit more visceral and dangerous, that there was something we should be doing to anything we had in the slate that kind of spoke into that again. So that was I think that was the that was the conversation we wanted to have.
It was like make it more edgy, make it bigger, and slightly less shiny is really what Yes.
Just sort of sandpaper the shiny floor.
And that was the brief. Originally, it was just people competing on skates. We added more disciplines. So we sort of went away and really had to rethink it.
Did you recast? In terms of the competitors, did you need a different type of competitor? Was it more about how you presented what those guys were doing?
Yes, different competitors, as in the course is bigger and harder, so they needed to be more skilled. We had to change locations, get a much bigger location. We really changed an awful lot. It changed a lot. It kept the essence of the show. But it is sort of grittier, bigger, scarier, and less of a shiny floor entertainment show, more of an entertainment event. Is what it will be. But it took a lot of work, and you know, they did give us more cash, and we had to spend it because it took a lot of, you know, a lot of work from the team to bring that show together in the way that you wanted.
Yes, thanks for your patience.
Okay, I'm getting the message. I think we can play the clips
Okay,
now.
so yeah, that's the first one.
Here we go.
That's shiny version.
That's the shiny version.
That to me, I can see gladiators in there. There's all got to dance kind of, you know, the shinier. This isn't that doesn't feel like an edgy show. It feels like a younger sort of celebration. Yeah.
And also, you know, I'd say that you know, because I was very into this and excited by this. It was an edgier version of a pre-Watershed show, I kind of think. Yeah. And also was principally rollerbladers, wasn't it?
Yes.
In that first one. And also one of the reasons I was keen for these guys to come up, because I think, you know, I've been in the audience as an indie, and actually just seeing, so that was a sizzle reel, that was an unsolicited sizzle reel that came in and pitched to us. Yeah. And I kind of think it's always useful seeing kind of how ideas that get to commission go through that original process. But
should we jump to the second tape?
So just to say before that, the challenge was, again, all that sort of, and this is about conversation, this is about a collaboration when you're talking to good producers like these guys are. They, you know, and Talca's absolute point back to me was like, don't make this turn this suddenly into a big sports show like X Games. This still has to have entertainment values. And that was completely valid conversation to have around that as well, wasn't it? So
yes, yeah. It's totally, you know, we didn't want to move it too far away from an entertainment show that became something totally different.
Yeah. And I said, get me Dale Winton, and we're sorted.
Second tape?
Yeah,
second tape. Thank you.
So I should just say, I mean, I think it's sort of silly to get sizzle tapes recut, but it is important for us because you know, you've got to remember as well as a producer that we're selling our stuff into the business quite a lot. We're selling it to the marketing people, we're selling it to the press people, we're selling it sort of around the organisation to our other bosses, and you've got to absolutely nail what the tone of voice is so that everybody kind of gets it and gets behind it.
Because it's kind of in our heads, but then you know, to get other people around the business to buy into it and to get excited about it, you need to, you know, do lots of work.
Yeah, indeed.
I mean, yeah, that sizzle, I would call it more of a tone tape. So we had to come back and repitch the whole show. And that second tape, obviously they're both Rippomatic tapes, we haven't shot anything, was to set the tone, and we, you know, for the whole presentation. And you know, and then we went through the new location we'd found, but I think you can see the difference. It's less shiny and a bit more edgy, but still a big entertainment show.
Very good. I wonder if we should move, jump to come again, because interesting, you're talking about a tonal tape. Matt, the first tape for Carmageddon is precisely that.
Yeah, it's a tonal tape. I mean, I think there's a sense of humour to our idea, which you'll see more of when we say the concept tape. It was definitely a tone tape, and it was definitely, I mean, we did a sort of full, you know, basically a sort of full-blown presentation, but this put the marker down right at the front to say, look, this is kind of conceptually a bit and tonally where we're heading.
And had you, I mean, you've got a great sort of top line, wacky races, Mad Max. Had you know, you and your development guys had come up with that with Sky One in mind, or you thought there's something in here that we can, because the film thing is quite...
It's okay.
No, we haven't. I mean, the truth is we developed it during the last autumn, and, you know, I always think sometimes these commissions, and this is a good example of one, and it's kind of reflection on both sides, but, you know, fundamentally, some planets sometimes align, and sometimes
timing was right, yeah.
Hey, they're thinking what we have just come, you know, we're in the right area anyway. And, you know, and then Fast and Furious got mentioned, and, you know, you just kind of think everything is in alignment, the odds are looking good. But yeah, so we'd sort of come up with it, and then it was fortuitous.
And it's worth saying, sorry, as well, that you know, there's all, like you just alluded to, there's with both of you, there was a huge format that came with this, and you know, mood boards and all sorts of other stuff. So we weren't just working off the sizzle tapes; we're working off bigger pitches too. Is it worth seeing the initial?
Should we play the first one? Yeah.
So
But Matt brings you that, Phil, and you think...
I said, that's nice.
Yeah.
Has it got Dale Winton in it? No, I mean, you think, of course, and of course this happens a lot. You know, I'm sure you've all done it. You pitch in an idea with a ripper tape, you know, taken off the movies, and we're sitting there going, love that movie, love the look of that. That's fantastic. Can you actually do it? I think our first question is, you can't do this, can you? This is not safe. Yeah. It won't look like that, and all the rest of it. So we.
Yeah, I think it was a combination of things. I mean, obviously, in fact, before we came to Sky, but certainly for a long time, or for a couple of months afterwards.
You had thought that through.
We had thought, we had to get a man who'd broken his legs 20 times into our office, i.e. a stunt person and various stunt people, to kind of go through how we're actually going to do it. And so the next tape, of course, was fundamentally speaking to that thing of, okay, but can you actually do it without killing people?
Can you?
We think no, we can. We can. So I mean, the second tape really was literally that. I mean, what you'll watch is we made a car safe, which was part of the process. We made another car full of weapons, and we put them together. So that's what the concept.
And also, we're going. Can you make the cars look sexy enough? You know, talk about. Will it be like wacky races? Will they spurt oil and flames?
Well, actually, funny enough, I mean, just very quickly, I mean, there's the sort of parallel or connection or whatever in these ideas, and that there are these massive communities out there, which isn't even something we thought of to begin with, but actually you lift the idea up and there's just tons of people, not doing quite this, but they're sort of doing that whole kind of fabrication, stunt racing, all that kind of world, which is.
And I think, sorry, the kind of I think the lesson for this is, you get these amazing sizzle reels now these days, these ripper tapes, whatever they're called. You come in and you kind of, that looks amazing. And so, if anybody does that, be prepared for the question, which was, okay, we'll give you a whole chunk of money, go out and prove you can do that. And if you can't, then there was no point spending time on that original tape, really. And so that was the challenge for the.
Yeah, without Marvel, can you do it?
Yeah.
Did the revival of Robot Wars play a part in this, Matt? From your, it didn't. It wasn't. No. Or was it you watching Mad Max at the?
Well, I think Mad Max, but this is one of those, and I'm sure we all have them. It's one of those ideas you do it and you go, God, no one's done it. Why hasn't anyone done it? Then you work out maybe there's a reason why. Once you get through that, you go, no one's done it, and you can actually do it.
Fine. Second tape?
Yeah, yes, please.
This is a bit of it, yeah.
That's a little bit, isn't it? Yeah.
Just to kind of say, so the purpose of this development stage is, okay, go prove that you can, so it's all about, he'd sold us on, Matt and Adam had sold us on the vision, the kind of the look and everything. It's purely about just prove that you can make a car that can do that kind of stuff and also a car that's safe inside. So that was all the thing was about. But then it comes with, some humour in there and little hints.
So that's interesting, the tone of that.
That really helps.
That's the thing that's why I was saying with the tone tape at the beginning. That didn't actually have humour. And what you realise, it was sort of clear soon, but I mean, I've just been sort of looking at a photograph of this guy in Somerset who's just converted an ice cream van into some sort of hellish monster. And I think that whole kind of, for us, the Guardians of the Galaxy tone, it's really, there will be moments of jeopardy like that, and I was standing on the side of that road, and you're standing there and you're going, this is quite dangerous, but we've worked out a way of doing it. So that's great, it's got all that kind of jeopardy. But for us, it's about ordinary men and women becoming Tom Hardy and then thinking maybe we shouldn't have done this, but it's too late by then because they're in the middle of the desert.
But I think humour is important. It's going to be important in Revolution as well.
Yeah. Well,
Steve-O.
I was going to say we've just booked Steve-O to host it, who's going to be great fun and doing some...
Jackass Steve-O. Very good.
You're going to break a different bone in every episode.
Yeah.
Very good. I can see a commonality between these two shows, but you have ordered a third show, which is a singing show.
Yeah.
But there's less obvious commonality.
No, that's true. I mean, but again, it's still, that came in through Universal as well, so it was taking the notion of Pitch Perfect and that film and trying to do something with that. So it's this notion of sort of epic films that we're turning into entertainment shows. And it's true, actually, just I should say, of the fact tent that we're doing, we're sort of still using that notion of, and I don't want to be too restricted by this, but these sort of taking movie tropes and turning them into the sort of narrative arc that you get in a film and turning it into a fact tent show. So we're developing a crime one, we're developing horror as an area and all that sort of things, and we're still looking for ideas that might sort of do that.
And maybe it's too simplistic, but I presume there's an element of which we're talking about Sky viewers, Sky subscribers often subscribe for the movies. right? That people, Sky customers are maybe heavy movie viewers, and that informs the strategy?
No, it just felt like it
did actually.
Did it? No, it's just that thing of like, you know, how do you? I mean, it's always a difficult thing for any channel, isn't it? You're trying to carve out a thing that you want to be known for, that makes you distinctive from other people. So it's trying to find some language around that speaks into that.
But let me challenge you a little bit on that, Phil, because an a cappella singing show doesn't strike me necessarily, it's most obviously distinctive.
No, you could...
There has been one fairly recently on BBC One.
Yes, you could. They are different, obviously. We wouldn't have done it.
So on that, so we were pitched and pretty much commissioned the show prior to the BBC One. Yeah. Prior to any of us knowing about the BBC One, and then kind of, you know, we're about to press the button and we saw the press release of about that one, and that was kind of quite a few months ago, and we went, oh, for fuck's sake, you know, because actually at the time it was, you know, it fitted the strategy. It was kind of, you know, it was a kind of singing show, but it was different, and it was no music, and it was edgier, and we were very, very excited, and they did sizzle reels, and it was, you know, very similar to that, and it absolutely fit the strategy. And then it was like, bugger, the BBC have done the same thing. And so it took us a while to kind of go, actually, should we be doing this? We all loved it. We all wanted to do it. We all felt instinctively that our show was different from the BBC shows. BBC show was, you know, clearly positioned pre-Watershed. You know, we'd got word that actually it wasn't pure a cappella. It was kind of the choir as well. So there was enough information there to kind of go, do you know what? If we did want to do this, it does feel like we can kind of differentiate ours. And because we loved it and we loved the idea, we kind of thought, oh, sod it, you know, we will do this. But you're right, it was, you know, it was a set of circumstances that wasn't as neat as these shows, which
Indeed.
are.
Yeah. And talent, so Steve-O for Revolution, Kat Deely's doing the Sing It show. Any
to be announced.
To be announced.
Winton, I'm hoping.
Would you like to announce, Matt, right now?
No.
Fair enough. But
Not Dale Winton. I think we can. That's fair enough.
Phil, any guidance on talent, the type of talent that you would
Well,
like?
no, I do. So we've talked about this actually. I have 3 abilities that we apply to the shows. So ability to do it, and actually for some of the shows we're creating ensemble casting around it as well, which is quite an interesting way of doing it as well. So ability, marketability to some extent. You know, we get a bit of press out of people, and credibility. So why is this person even in this show? So Steve-O feels like an absolute sort of slam dunk in a way because he's in that world and he gets it, and the viewer who's interested in it will absolutely understand that he's a sort of credible host. And likability is another thing I think as well. So the 4 abilities.
Some good pointers there. I'm going to go to questions from the app very quickly. Before I do, we touched on it. These are shows that need to be filmed in a purpose-built arena, in a particular kind of location. These are expensive shows. Do you, for you guys, do you think about multi-season orders at the very beginning to try and sort of amortise the costing?
No, we haven't done that. We want to obviously see that they're going to be huge successes.
Yeah.
And you always commission something with the idea that it's going to come back and be a return, and audiences are going to respond to it. We also know that, you know, it's hard to land things straight out of the starting gate. So, but we've got high hopes for all of our shows at the moment.
And do you like the idea then of entertainment shows that are beyond the traditional studio?
Yeah. So in fact, we're pretty much well. So far, I mean, like, you know, things change all the time, but we're not doing stuff. We're sandpapering the shiny floor. This is what we say. So let's make everything feel like it's almost like a real world event that we've turned up to and filmed. And I think that's true of both of these. And I think they exist anyway.
I think it's interesting because your session earlier on today, and there's been a few other sessions over the last couple of days talking about, you know, entertainment is a genre that's kind of ready for, and we've been saying this for years. We have. It's kind of been ready for a new push. And actually us moving back into the genre, it's interesting that actually even internally people would say, oh yeah, we're moving back into the shiny floor territory. And even the terminology for the genre is kind of, you know, is kind of fixed in that world.
The shiny floor show. We're actually not much of a shiny floor in the Carmageddon, is there?
Yeah. But again, you know, we had the discussion. We're kind of, you know, wouldn't it be great to come up with a term to describe the you know, the new genre. So, you know, Phil was talking about getting sandpaper out, scuffing the floor. I was talking about skid marks, and we realised that's probably the wrong.
That was an entirely different evening, Adam.
But it's interesting that we're all aware that this genre is crying out for a kind of a new style, and even the terminology around what that might be doesn't exist at the moment.
Very good. Time is closing in on us. I'm going to take a few questions from the app. You've still got last chance if you'd like to, ladies and gentlemen. The top one, you're going to enjoy this, particularly the two Sky representatives on the panel.
That means we're not.
It does. That's exactly what it means. Russell T. Davis says, Russell T. Davis speaking at the festival earlier, we've got a government that is warding off the BBC with one hand and sucking up to Murdoch with the other. What do the panel think about this sentiment?
You'll be surprised to know it's probably not something I'll comment about.
Phil?
I don't think that's true either, even, actually. It's interesting, the McTaggart lecture, and Jon Snow brought up a really good point about Facebook and Google and the big social networks who don't pay their taxes in the UK, who don't contribute necessarily to the economy, and who are kind of unfettered by regulation. You know, so I don't really have any truck with them.
So perhaps there are other organisations out there that might be worthy of a bit more attention, other than
maybe some other scrutiny should be elsewhere.
And Fox. Okay, let's rattle through a few more if we can. Is the push to pure entertainment from Sky One a reaction to younger audiences dropping off? That's quite a good question. Adam?
It's certainly not a reaction to that. It's come out of the work we've been doing at our core demographic, 25 to 55, and also this sense, as I said earlier, about trying to do something in entertainment that I believe we have done in drama, which is to kind of do something new and fresh. I think because of the shows we're looking at, one hopes it does appeal to a younger audience. It's got that kind of scale they've not seen before. It wasn't the purpose, wasn't the design, but one hopes it can kind of appeal to those viewers. Yeah.
It's probably pure coincidence, but is it the case that if you've announced 3 entertainment shows, I would say one of them, if pushed, skews slightly more female, potentially, the Pitch Perfect, the Sing It, and that these 2 shows potentially would skew a bit more male? I mean, is that a strategic plan, or do you think of Revolution as skewing male, particularly in Talca?
Well, a good example, I think, and one that we talk about is Ninja Warrior, which you would think would be a very male show, and in fact actually, has a very strong female audience. And that's something that we talk about all the time. There's male and female contestants, and they're all going against each other. So we hope it appeals to women as well, and we're certainly going to.
They compete. Men and women compete on even footing.
Yes, on even footing. So yeah, that's very important to us.
Yeah, and the same in Come Again.
Yeah, totally. I mean, there's a lot of women driving in these.
There is there? Maybe I'm being horribly stereotypical.
Sure, but I also think it's not. I think it's there's a lot of themes and ideas in the show. So I mean, who knows? But we think of it more shared.
We touched on this slightly, but a question for you, Phil. Are we seeing the dawn, which is a slightly mixed metaphor here, are we seeing the dawn of dark entertainment on Sky One?
Dawn of the Dark. This sounds like a good format title. So whoever's pitching that is... I don't know. I mean, no, I don't think so. I think, it's horses for courses. What I think is encouraging, just doing the entertainment session there, is that actually all the broadcasters now are getting behind entertainment a lot more. And I know Anne's in here. I don't think we should move over drama. Drama's very good. But everyone's sort of piling into it at the moment. And it's really hard to have a hit in entertainment, as we all know, having done it for years. And it's really hard to carve something out that's distinctive. And of course, we're seeing a lot of formats come back as well. We're not specifically being dark. We want lightness. We want humour. We want all the great things that people love. We want people to enjoy our shows and not feel anxious watching them.
Can I ask how you're going to promote these shows? Because I wrote a leader the other day for Broadcast where I wondered whether it's harder than ever to launch a show. There isn't. We talked about scheduling a little bit. It's not as though there is a inbuilt viewer expectation that there is going to be a certain type of entertainment show on Sky One on Wednesdays at 9 p.m. or whatever. I presume the Sky marketing machine is going to get behind these things. We're going to see promotion on the homepage of the EPG. We're going to see some advertising. These are difficult things, not easy things to launch.
Exactly. I was interested in hearing for a couple of the sessions for other kind of terrestrials saying they're beginning to think about entertainment outside of Saturday and Sunday. But what they do have is they have Saturday and Sunday, and actually there's it's not. It doesn't mean that it's easy to launch shows there, but there is an expectation there, and we don't have that. and we'll be playing shows we think kind of elsewhere in the schedule. So yes, it's a challenge for us. We have to, and we are going to, do with the entertainment formats what we did with drama, which is, you have to get behind them, you have to kind of spend marketing money on them. Marketing of being kind of, with us side by side in developing this strategy. So yeah. Yeah,
you probably have to get into it and keep on at it and build up a habit for viewers as well, and they need to know that you're doing it again, and that'll take a wee while.
I was just going to say very quickly, by the way, I mean, I do think that entertainment has come back into just generally across the sort of landscape, which is a great thing, and I think that people need cheering up, and I think it's a genre which is particularly suited.
Even with the dawn of the dark.
Even with the dating show.
Are these shows to me feel like more... They're kind of events, more like linear shows than things that might be PVR'd and catch up. Well, obviously, I think of Sky as being making it very easy for Sky customers to watch what they want when they want. Drama obviously lends itself to that kind of thing. These things feel like they're more sort of events, and perhaps live and linear might be slightly more important. I don't know.
I think we'll find that out. I think
kind of
if you look at if you look at the numbers across all channels, but certainly for ours, it's the drama and the scripted that tends to PVR and the entertainment that doesn't. I'd like to think that with these shows, you're creating something that people do want to PVR and look, and the word of mouth and the talkability will allow people to come back and watch them. They're not live; they don't require voting, so you don't need to watch them live.
Do they have winners? Do we have a winner of it? It builds to a final.
Yeah, but there's in our show there's a winner at the end of every episode,
right?
So you can and a finale, but you
Okay.
watch the episode.
That's interesting because that does lend itself slightly more to. It doesn't matter if I miss it on Wednesday, I can watch it on Thursday. It's not like I'm going to have spoiled it because I'll know who's through to the next round, kind of thing.
Yeah.
We're just taking that. Sorry, I think there's an interesting. It's a discussion I'd love to have with people as we go forward, particularly in the fact tent space. Is there a world in which we could create box set kind of factual entertainment that would work in that kind of filmic narrative way that people do want to consume in one go? So I think that's a conversation we're having about a few shows that are in development.
With an arc that goes
over. They are hooky, that are hooky at the end of every part, so that you want to come back and keep following the narrative through. So.
Wouldn't it be great to kind of just invent something, a form new that actually is a big entertainment show that is kind of box set, is kind of watch back to back.
I'd love to crack that. So. Yeah.
There you are, a creative challenge on which to end this session. No pressure, you guys in the audience, but if you haven't cracked it by this time next year, we're all going to give up and go home.
Can I just, before you close, can I just say thank you?
Yes, thank you very much.
These guys for coming along, because actually... We asked them, we thought it would be useful for the audience. We asked them to show their sizzle reels. That's not an easy thing to show. So, I'd like to say thank you very much for doing that. Yeah.
Indeed. And I would like to thank the entire panel for their time. So if you could join me and give them a round of applause.